Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and esteemed speakers. A warm welcome to all of you. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to tonight's sharing sessions on strategies for a successful ADB Young Professional Program application. Before we begin our program today, let us rise and listen to the Indonesian national anthem, Indonesia Raya. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. I am Marin from the Ministry of Finance, and tonight I will help to guide the discussions and also be with you all, the participants today, to listen to our discussions tonight. And on behalf of the organizers, I would like to once again extend my warm greetings to all participants and our guests, and of course, our esteemed speakers. And thank you for joining us in these important discussions on how Indonesia's young professional can be better prepare themselves to seize the opportunities in international finance institutions, particularly in the Asian Development Bank. To begin our program, I would like to kindly invite Ibu Masita Kristalin, our Director General of Financial Sector Stability and Development, Ministry of Finance, to deliver her opening remarks. Ibu Masita, the floor is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Salam, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Selamat malam teman-teman semua. Pertama, izinkan saya menyambut para tamu kita dahulu dari ADB. Mr. Munenari Nomura, Director General of Budget, People and Management System Department ADB. Bapak Said Zaidan Shah, Country Director ADB for Papua New Guinea Resident Mission, Shiori Helan, HR Specialist from ADB, dan yang paling saya banggakan, teman-teman para alumni ADB Young Professional Program yang akan berbagi pengalaman berharga. Moderator dan tentu saja para peserta malam ini yang luar biasa, mahasiswa, alumni LPDP, ASN muda, profesional, serta diaspora Indonesia yang ada di berbagai belahan dunia dan bekerja di berbagai jenis sektor. Saya sungguh senang bisa hadir di tengah forum yang energinya begitu positif. Sayangnya kita online ya, lain kali mungkin kita bisa bikin offline sehingga lebih terasa. Teman-teman sekalian, kalau kita lihat dunia saat ini ada satu hal yang pasti, yaitu perubahan. Kita mengalami banyak sekali perubahan, tidak hanya geopolitik, geoekonomi, tapi juga teknologi, perubahan iklim, bahkan juga bagaimana cara kita bekerja dan belajar. Semuanya berubah begitu cepat. Disrupsi demi disrupsi terjadi dan tentu kita perlu beradaptasi dengan itu. Indonesia dan kita sebagai warga negara Indonesia tentu harus siap, bukan hanya untuk bertahan, tapi juga untuk ikut memberikan arah bagi pembangunan Indonesia. Nah, saya ingin ingatkan pada malam hari ini bahwa modal terbesar kita adalah tidak hanya sumber daya alam ya, yang kita alhamdulillah dikaruniai banyak sekali, tapi yang paling penting itu adalah human capital. Anak-anak muda Indonesia yang cerdas, tangguh, adaptif, dan berwawasan global. Teman-teman semua yang kita undang hari ini, yang potensi kalian itu menunjukkan potensi Indonesia ke depan. Nah, pertanyaannya bagaimana caranya agar talenta Indonesia bisa punya peran nyata dalam agenda global? Salah satunya adalah bekerja di tempat keputusan global itu dibuat. Jadi kita harus ada di main table. Semua talenta Indonesia yang berhasil ada di dalam sistem ini, baik di internasional maupun bekerja di dalam negeri, harus memastikan bahwa suara, kepentingan, dan perspektif pembangunan Indonesia itu bisa didengar, dipertimbangkan di dalam agenda global. Kita sudah punya beberapa seri ya, beberapa minggu lalu kita menyelenggarakan dengan Bank Dunia, dengan World Bank. Kali ini kita menyelenggarakan dengan lembaga multilateral development banks lain, yaitu Asian Development Bank. Nah, kenapa ADB? Ya, ADB itu adalah salah satu mitra penting pembangunan di Asia dan juga di Indonesia, membantu mendorong transformasi di bidang infrastruktur, di bidang energi terbarukan, inklusi sosial, dan lain-lain. Sejak tahun 1966, Indonesia sudah langsung merasakan peran ADB dengan komitmen kumulatif yang mencapai lebih dari 48 miliar US dollar. Saya sendiri punya kesan yang sangat khusus dengan ADB. Waktu itu saya bekerja merancang Energy Transition Mechanism dan juga Just Energy Transition Partnership bersama dengan ADB sebagai salah satu mitra utama kami di dalam Kementerian Keuangan, dan pada saat itu berkoordinasi dengan seluruh kementerian terkait di bidang transisi energi. Hal ini bukan hanya kerjasama proyek ya, tapi juga sebuah bukti bahwa ADB bisa melihat potensi Indonesia dan juga bahwa Indonesia bisa menghasilkan pemikiran mengenai program atau project yang bisa mendorong pembangunan berkelanjutan di Indonesia. Bukan hanya proyek-proyek besar yang akan lebih memahami konteks Indonesia sendiri, tapi juga kebijakan di level kawasan itu juga adalah sesuatu hal yang sangat penting. Nah, disinilah pentingnya ADB Young Professionals Program. Program ini adalah salah satu pintu emas bagi talenta muda terbaik untuk bisa berkarir dan cukup kompetitif. Selama 3 tahun, peserta YPP akan ditempa, bisa bekerja di lintas negara, terjun ke lapangan, ikut menyusun kebijakan, akan diputar berbagai sektor untuk membangun jejaring global. Tentu di sini setelah 3 tahun itu, teman-teman semua pasti akan memiliki pengalaman yang lengkap mengenai bagaimana sebuah multilateral development banks bekerja. Dari sinilah biasanya lahir calon-calon pemimpin ADB masa depan. Pak Said adalah salah satu lulusan Young Professional Program dari ADB. Pastinya program yang kompetitif jalannya tidak mudah, kompetitif, butuh CV dan aplikasi yang kuat ya. Jadi tolong persiapkan bagi yang berminat mendaftar. Kemudian wawancara juga pasti cukup menantang, namun dalam proses ini kami ingin menemani teman-teman dan adik-adik semua melalui proses ini. Jadi pada hari ini ada 3 hal besar yang dapat kita capai untuk forum ini. Pertama, saya ingin teman-teman semua mendapatkan pemahaman yang lebih lengkap mengenai program ADB YPP dan proses seleksinya. Lalu kita juga ingin teman-teman merasa dibekali dengan tips praktis bagaimana sih menulis CV, menonjolkan pencapaian ya, kemudian bagaimana menghadapi wawancara. Nanti setelah ada yang lolos seleksi wawancara, kita bisa membantu melakukan coach one-on-one atau seminar lain untuk membantu teman-teman di tahap berikutnya. Kemudian kita juga ingin menularkan semangat ya, bahwa kita bisa bersaing, bisa menang, dan bisa memimpin di panggung global. Tapi tentunya jangan lupa kembali ke Indonesia, kembali tidak harus fisik ya, tapi kita bisa bekerja dari mana saja, tapi untuk kemajuan Indonesia. Harapan saya sederhana ya, teman-teman setelah forum ini yang memang punya passion untuk bekerja di dunia internasional, bisa pulang dengan bekal yang lebih konkret, sudah tahu CV-nya harus diapain, mempunyai CV yang lebih baik, memahami alur seleksi ya, dan juga yang paling penting dengan adanya pembicara hari ini, teman-teman mendapatkan motivasi yang kuat untuk melalui berbagai proses ini. Tapi yang ingin saya ingatkan adalah bahwa pencapaian kita, baik itu di ADB maupun di tempat lain, itu bukan hanya prestasi pribadi, tentu kami ikut bangga, tapi ini juga adalah prestasi Indonesia, karena saya yakin teman-teman ingin berkontribusi yang lebih nyata bagi dunia sebagai orang Indonesia, dan juga berkontribusi untuk pembangunan Indonesia. Saya nggak ingin berpanjang-panjang, saya ingin mengucapkan terima kasih kepada ADB, para alumni YPP, dan juga semua pihak yang sudah ikut menyelenggarakan acara ini. Untuk teman-teman peserta, please gunakan kesempatan ini sebaik-baiknya, motivasi dan langsung bergerak ya, menyiapkan CV dan catat tuh tanggal deadline-nya untuk yang ingin daftar, jangan sampai ketinggalkan. Dengarkan pengalaman para narasumber, kontak langsung, hubungi di LinkedIn, tanya yang kalian ingin tahu, jadikan ini bagian dari network kalian untuk membantu kita bermimpi besar ya, bermimpi besar dan melakukan hal-hal besar. Karena siapa tahu tahun depan di sini ada yang masuk, atau bahkan karena pengalaman pendaftaran ini teman-teman juga menjadi lebih kompetitif untuk mendaftar jenis-jenis pekerjaan kompetitif lainnya, baik di level internasional maupun di Indonesia. Selamat mengikuti acara, semoga bermanfaat, bisa memberi inspirasi, dan juga menjadi langkah awal perjalanan global teman-teman semua. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Om Santi Santi Om, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan.
Terima kasih Ibu Mashita. Thank you for your insightful opening. Next, I would like to invite Mr. Munenari Nomura, Director General of Budget, People and Management System Department, ADB, to also deliver his opening remarks. Mr. Nomura, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. I'd first like to thank Ibu Mashita and the Indonesian Ministry of Finance for organizing this event. Our aim tonight is to demystify the selection process for ADB's Young Professionals Program and to equip you to submit strong applications. Let me begin by saying how much we value young talents like you. The ADB Young Professionals Program is more than just an entry point to ADB. It is a structured talent management initiative designed to cultivate the future leaders of international development. To the program's success in nurturing future leaders of ADB. Tonight, you will hear from Saeed, our country director in Papua New Guinea, who began his career at ADB as a young professional later tonight. It is remarkable to note that in recent years, the program has attracted an average of 3,000 applications annually. This underscores its reputation as one of the most sought-after opportunities for aspiring young professionals. And today, 15 young professionals are on their way to join us at the end of this month. During this session, we will walk you through the major steps of the selection process of ADB's Young Professionals Program. We will share what evaluators are looking for, how best to prepare, and common pitfalls to avoid. You will also hear from Adita, who will be joining ADB as a young professional later this month. She will share her personal experience in navigating through the selection process of the Young Professionals Program. Now I invite you to reflect on your own experiences and clarify your why, your motivation to join ADB. Just as important is to recognize the unique strengths they bring in and how they can contribute to ADB's mission. My hope is that by the end of this session, you will be confident knowing what to expect and how to approach the highly competitive selection process. Let me conclude my remarks by saying that those who succeed will find not only a place in the Young Professionals Program, but also the beginning of a deeply rewarding, exciting, and meaningful career with ADB. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nomura, for your kind words and encouragement. We will now move on to our keynote speech. It is my honor to introduce Mr. Said Zaidain Shah, Country Director of the ADB Papua New Guinea Resident Mission. He will share with us, He will share with us perspective on why the ADB and reflect on his personal experience and key lessons learned. Mr. Said, the screen is yours.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to speak to a lot of talented Indonesian aspiring candidates for the Young Professional Program. I was quite fortunate to have been part of this program in 2002. So that's 23 years. And until Adita joins the YP program, I would be the last Indonesian to have participated in the program. So I really welcome the arrival of Adita, who I understand will join us later this month. Now, my journey in ADB started in 2002. It's been 23 years, as I mentioned earlier. And why ADB, right? What is special about ADB? That I applied for the YP program and now continue on in the organization. Just a little bit of a background. Maybe I'll try to share my screen if I can. Okay, sharing is not turned on. Okay. Anyway, let me see if I can share my screen. I'll share my screen. Otherwise, I'll speak. I'll speak without the presentation. But ADB is a premier international financial institution that was founded in 1966. Yeah, we have 69 members, 49 regional members, 20 non-regional members, and it's based in Manila and based in the Philippines. And then this is special because it is based in one of our developing member countries. So when you are working in ADB, and even if you're based in headquarters, you are based in a country that is going through a certain development journey, development trajectory, right? And ADB is very much part of that country's development trajectory. And I think that also explains why ADB, more so than many other international financial institutions, are seen as often a family doctor, somebody that our clients, our developing member countries can feel at ease, when they come to us, to basically provide solutions to their development challenges and provide financing as well. Now, when you look at, what is the value proposition of ADB, we must also look into what is the issue that ADB wants to resolve. One of this is the poverty challenge. There are now 264 million people that lives in extreme poverty on less than $1.90 a day. There's 836 million people that live in poverty. This is between $1.90 to $3.20 a day, 3.20 cents a day, who are at risk of being pushed into extreme poverty through economic downturn or extreme poverty or extreme shock. So what ADB wants to do, we have a strategy 2030, is to achieve a prosperous, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable Asia and the Pacific, right, while trying to sustain our efforts to eradicate extreme poverty. And, in doing that, the development issues that we want to address is basically how to address the remaining poverty and to reduce inequalities in the Asia and the Pacific. We want to tackle climate change, build climate and disaster resilience, enhance environmental sustainability. We want to also promote rural development and food security. We want to foster regional cooperation and integration. For us, it's very important as well to ensure gender equity, gender equality. We want to accelerate the progress in that regard. We want to make cities more livable and to strengthen governance and institutional capacity. These are essentially our operational priorities, and we do this, through various forms: financing, loans, grants, guarantees, equity investments, and we have also in our arsenal technical assistance policy dialogue. I think Ibu Masita mentioned earlier, how in Indonesia ADB was quite instrumental in the energy transition space. This is an area where we had worked. We worked very closely with Ministry of Finance, and we worked very closely when I was the deputy country director in ADB. I worked very closely with Ibu Masita on this, right? So this is just giving you a bit of an overview, a quick overview of ADB. So it is an impactful institution in the country that I operate in Papua New Guinea at the moment. It is certainly the largest one of the largest development partners of the government, the largest lender of the government, the largest multi-development multilateral financial institutions in the country, and we are making impact. So I feel, in my role as a country director here, that I feel the fact that I feel good by the fact that the work we do are changing lives in PNG and also in other countries that we operate. Now, for me to be able to get to the position that I'm in at present, I started out as YP, as a young professional. And I began my YP journey basically, in 2002, right? So I joined the YP program together with 9 other colleagues, and they come from all over the world, right? We had YP coming from Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, US, Japan, Korea, Portugal, two Americans as well. So, really very diverse, right? And, the thing with ADB, the thing with the YP program is that it's been around for 40 years. So you're part of a community. Even then, you're part of a community, and even more so now, right? With so many people that have gone and joined ADB from this program. Now, by being part of ADB, so other than being part of a community, you also have a solid network base. And to me personally, it has been quite a journey. It's been quite a a rich experience, right? To be able to have that broad development exposure at a very young age. I joined ADB when I was just below 30. Um, I was working initially in the office of the general counsel, and preparing loan documentations and doing a lot of um, law and policy reform. I still remembered working on secure transactions, trying to sort of promote how transactions in some parts of Asia and the Pacific can be leveraged through property or through assets, right? And how to create an enabling environment for secure transactions to be viable. So you feel like you're making a difference from the work that you do, and by increasing access to financing, you're also generating more economic activities that can then promote economic growth. And to me, that then basically helped me in terms of navigating embolden my interest in development, because I was previously working in a law firm, right, in Baker McKinsey, in Hadi Putanto, Hadi Noto and Partners, which is the Indonesian name for Baker McKinsey at the time. So then after that, after I was working in OGC, I was working in Southeast Asia Regional Department. I was working on a number of governance related issues in different countries in the Asia Pacific, including in Indonesia. And then I went on to work with the Office of the General Counsel, and I stayed on until for 14 years in the Office of the General Counsel before I moved to Indonesia as a deputy country director, and now for 5 years, and now as a country director in PNG. So I find that the entry as a YP helped me in terms of at a young age develop this passion for development, and then because of I went to the Office of the General Counsel because I was a lawyer, but then having that experience as a YP allowed me to think beyond just being a black letter lawyer, and then that helped me to navigate a career in ADB that went beyond law, right? So the beauty of ADB again is the fact that it does allow the staff to grow, and if you have a growth mentality, you can basically create your own journey in the organization, right? I did that from a lawyer to now country management, and I don't know where else the life in ADB will take me. So that is something that I truly appreciate. So career mobility, broad development exposure is important, right? But all of that also, I suppose, depends on you. Yeah, depends on how you want to make your career as you depend on how you want to sort of develop your career, yeah, afterwards. Now, I should also mention that as a YP, at least when I was a YP, although you are at the bottom of the value chain, right, you are given the same benefits. Salary obviously are different. But benefits that other international staff would get, you would also get. So that includes, for example, housing. That includes education for the kids, if you have kids, and also home leave and so forth, right? Medical So ADB is a very generous employer as well, and I think that is something that I do appreciate. So I think taken together, right? Joining YP and it helped me certainly in achieving what I have achieved to this date. Now, a lot of ADB senior management are also a YP program. So, in fact, when I was in Indonesia as a deputy country director, the country director at the time, who's now Director General for Southeast Asia Department, was a former YP. Right, our DG at the time was also a YP. So we had a situation where most of the people that was really in senior positions were YP. It doesn't mean that you cannot grow in the organizations if you're not a YP, obviously, because a lot of people are also non-YPs. But YP, because you come in at a young age, the tendency is they want, ADB would like to, basically, would like for you to be somebody with certain technical expertise. But then the idea here is that for you to perhaps become a generalist, along the way, so that you can be agile, right? But again, all of this will depend on how you make things, how you make it, right? I think that is very important. Key lessons that I would like to sort of impart to all of you. Career in ADB is in most other places. It all depends on how you want to make it, and in ADB I find the opportunity for you to make your career is also quite high. Your career is your responsibility, right? So you cannot say, "Oh, I hope somebody will take care of me," and then give me this position or make me do this and that. No, you have to be in ADB. You have to be willing to, chart your own career, find opportunities where they, when and where, when they become available, right? So, in short, yeah, and more as a concluding remark, I would say that YP is a fantastic opportunity for you to join the organization that has done so much, I think, for the development of Asia and the Pacific. And once you become a YP, right, you have, I think, you need to go through the process. You need to go through the rotations that you go through, and once you become a staff of a full-fledged staff, I would say, or once you regularize or once you've graduated from the program, you really then have a whole host of potential and options. I think ADB, that's what's great about the organization, right? I've seen people who were doing one thing, an IT person initially, let's say, digital transformation expert, then becoming and doing something else, that with certain level, with again with with ability to acquire, but you do need to acquire the necessary expertise, right? So if you're willing to learn, you're willing to grow, the ADB will provide that opportunity for you to, in some ways, reinvent yourself, right? So, which I think is great as a leader. It's a great institution to work in as well. So I do wish everybody here all the very best as you try to apply for the program, and I am contactable via LinkedIn, and feel free to reach out to me, and I'll be happy to provide any guidance as necessary to you, right? So let me stop there and hand it back to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pak Said, for the comprehensive and inspiring presentation and your kind willingness to help the participants and always be available to be reached out by the participants. And before we begin the technical discussion, I would like to inform to all participants that we will have a dedicated question and answer session after the presentations. And you are welcome to submit your questions in the chat box at any time and starting from now. Our speakers will address these questions during the question and answer sessions later or respond directly in the chat box. For our first technical session, I am pleased to introduce Ms. Shiori Helen, HR Specialist at ADB. Ms. Helen, a Japanese national, joined ADB in 2024 on a talent acquisition team. She is responsible for recruitment in several departments and also managed the Young Professional Program. Previously, she worked at UN specialist agencies such as FAO and IAEA, as well as in the private sector, with her career focus in talent acquisition. Tonight, she will guide us on crafting and effective applications, including CV structure, technique for presenting achievements, and also CV simulations. Ms. Helen, good evening.
Good evening, and thank you so much for the introduction. Let me share my screen if you could bear with me 1 second. And let me know if you can see it. Okay, just checking. Are you able to see my presentation?
Yes, we already see the presentation, Miss.
Okay, great. So thank you for the event organizers for providing this opportunity to present the Young Professional Program application process. Thank you for the introduction. My name is Shori Helen. I'm one of the HR business partners on ADB's talent acquisition team, and I program manage the YPP program at the bank. So let me go to the next slide here. So in this bubble here, you can see our selection process and major recruitment step. From the posting to your day one at the bank, it takes a year. So in the context of our current running selection process, our job posting is already up on our website. It was posted on September 8th, and then it's scheduled to be closed on October 7th. So many of you in the audience, if you're considering to apply for this position, make sure to submit your application well before the deadline of October 7th. Once the posting is closed online, then we conduct eligibility screening. So we looked at the minimum requirements of the Young Professional Program, and we checked to see if you're national of the ADB member states. We look at to make sure that you're the age of 32 or under, making sure that you have a proven academic track record, 3 years of minimum of 3 years of relevant work experience. So all of those eligibilities are checked around October timeline. Then those qualified candidates will move on to the online testing. At this stage, if you're invited, you'll receive a link. The assessment itself takes about 2 hours, and you're given about a week to find the time that best suits you to take this assessment. The online test composed of a different elements. So there's an aspect of the numerical ability test. There's a module about abstract reasoning ability test, and there's also another one on the situational judgment test. All of those test modules are multiple choice questions. So meaning that, for example, for the situational judgment test, you're given, let's say, a scenario, short scenario, and you pick the choices of where you find it most applicable to that situation. So here, during this online testing, we're really focusing on your foundational skills in perhaps problem solving, analytical thinking. So this is what we're looking at this stage. Then those who pass the online testing, your application will be reviewed by your future supervisors and technical specialists. At the technical screening stage, we looked at your technical fit for the position. So perhaps if you're going for the transport sector office, then we look at in detail what kind of experience you have in that sector and so on. Then the future supervisor and technical specialist will shortlist you for the asynchronous video interview stage. And let me just highlight here because there are so many bubbles. So at the asynchronous video interview stage, this is more emphasis on the technical competency again. So we've seen your application, we understand your technical fit based on your application, but we wanted to ask you a more deeper question on your technical skill set. So at the asynchronous video interview stage, again, you were invited to the platform via email, and then you were asked to respond to 3 to 5 technical questions and record yourself and submit your responses. Then that your responses are reviewed, then those who pass the stage will proceed to the panel interview. Here, you can expect meeting with the senior leaders of the organization. So you'll meet the head of the department or their delegates of your future department, as well as HR representative will be there. There'll be also another independent panel from other parts of the organization to look at not only your technical fit, but also the overall fit for ADB. Those who pass, so panel interview is really the last step of the process. And if you're selected, you'll be notified around April following year and receive formal offer letter, go through onboarding process in that month. And then you start here with us in Manila in September next year. At the bottom of this page here, I just added this number just to illustrate the competitive nature of this process. I think we're continuing to hear competitive throughout the session, but truly it is. So we receive about 3,300 applications, and at the end of the process, so if we talk about the those who's incoming inclusive of Adita, out of the 3,300 applicants, only 16 candidates were selected to join us at the end of this month. So you can see number going from 3,300 to 16, quite competitive indeed. Moving on to the next step. So in terms of how we assess, so throughout the process, the evaluators, meaning that receiving office of the young professionals, relevant panel members, they're looking at 3 elements. So technical competencies, core competencies, and leadership potential. However, as I mentioned earlier, each of the steps focus more on a specific element, and it's weighted differently. So for example, as I discussed earlier, at the asynchronous video interview step, there's more emphasis on technical competencies. At the panel interviews, on the other hand, while we do look at the technical skill set, but more emphasis on the core competencies and leadership potential, because technically you already vetted from the technical screening of your application as well as asynchronous video interview step. So at the end of the selection process, what we are aiming here is to make sure that we understand and have a comprehensive picture of your technical skill set, your experience, and the core competency, so your culture and behavioral fit, as well as a leadership potential. In order to do this, our assessment look at not only your achievement, like your experience gained in your career thus far and from academia, but we also put emphasis on how you achieve them, right? So through our core competency, like leadership, collaboration, innovative thinking. So it's very important that you familiarize yourself with our core competency. Lead with courage, navigate complexity, grow ones and others, collaborate beyond boundaries, and drive innovative solutions. And I'll go into a little bit more details later on. Leadership potential. So as an applicant of a young professional program, we don't expect you to have a leadership experience of Saeed, right? We don't expect candidate to have led a team of 5 or 10 or went through the performance review of your staff member. Rather, we're really looking at your potential. So, for example, to put in a context, when you do join us as a young professional, most likely you won't be acting as a team lead. Rather, you're part of the team member, and perhaps you need to work with a senior colleague who has more experience, but you need to exercise your influencing skills to get things done. Right? Or you're part of maybe multidisciplinary team of a 5 or 10, working with a different priority of each of the department represented in your team, inclusive of you. And then you need to work through that to find a common goal in order to get things done, basically. So really, we're looking at the potential. And as Saeed said, I think the growth potential, right? You can create your own journey. So we look at more long-term as a potential future leader of the organization, what growth potential you bring to the table. So those are the 3 elements I wanted to highlight that our evaluators are looking at throughout the process. Okay, in the next few slides, let me walk you through each major step and how you can best prepare. So your application is crucial, and based on the timing, you must be working on this right now. Your applications are reviewed not only by HR, like myself, but also it's reviewed by your future supervisors, head of the department, and senior leaders. So it must clearly represent your core experience and skills that are relevant to the work of ADB, so that evaluator can see your connection between your experience and position at ADB. So how do I do that, right? So present your employment history in reverse chronological order. So the latest first, and your responsibilities. If you've been with an organization for a while and you've held a different role of progressive responsibilities, make sure you differentiate different roles that you've held within the organization so you can highlight your progression within the organization. List your work history with role, tasks, project involvement details, and key milestones. That way we can truly evaluate the scope of the role that you've held. Again, going back to the earlier point, making sure you make the connection for the evaluator, aligning your experience with the ADB development goal. You can highlight your leadership, cross-cultural, and technical skill sets, as well as emphasizing your international experience and adaptability across regions. International experience can differ one person to the other. So some of you may be in Indonesia for the entire career. However, you might be dealing with regional projects or international projects dealing with stakeholders and maybe your colleague outside of the country. That's an international exposure that you can highlight. Some of you may have an operational background and you had worked in a different field offices. Those are certainly relevant experience that you can highlight as an international exposure. So hopefully that gives you some idea of what to highlight in your application. Moving on to the next step. So asynchronous video interview. Again, this is more emphasis on the technical skill set. Before the video interview, how you can prepare. So when you are invited to the asynchronous video interview step, you're given a link to the platform. And what I'm seeing from many of the applicants is that they wait until the last minute or when they're ready to take the assessment, so they don't touch on the link at all. But my recommendation is make sure you actually access the link, because this platform enables you to practice navigating. So once you're ready to take the assessment, you already know how to navigate the platform. So I highly encourage, even before you're ready to take the assessment, make sure to go through the link and test. As I said, it is a technical, there's an emphasis on technical skill, right? So as a part of the preparation, make sure to list your key technical skills and experience that you would like to highlight. Practice explaining how this is relevant, right? So instead of having a bullet point of your skill set, make sure how each of the skill sets, make sure that you can explain how each of the skill set is relevant to the work of ADB. Practicing for technical questions. So my recommendation is practice out loud. This may feel silly to you, but perhaps, the speed of how you read the content that you have prepared versus how you can deliver verbally, the speed may be different, right? So make sure you practice out loud, structure your responses, and simulate the time pressure. Just to give you a bit of information on what the asynchronous video interview looks like. So typically, you're given 3 to 5 questions, mostly on your sectoral knowledge, maybe functional knowledge. The question will flash. You have a 1 minute to read the question. You're given another minute to prepare your response, and then you need to respond within 3 to 5 minutes, depending on the complexity of that question. So it's a really good idea to set a timer to practice responding to a question within 3 to 5 minutes. You'd be surprised to know how quickly 3 minutes goes when you wanted to pack in your answer. During the interview, make sure to set up your environment. So making sure that you have a stable internet connection, find a distraction-free zone for at least allocating 40 to 45 minutes. Make sure the room is well lit, so you're ready to go. Remember that you can also take a note throughout, so you can have a piece of paper in front of you. And although you may only have a 1 minute to prepare your responses, but you can certainly have a bullet point of what you wanted to cover in your response. So it might help you to have a piece of paper. Mind your delivery. So your responses are reviewed by your future supervisors or technical specialists. So make sure that you don't rush through the response, but deliver your response at the speed that as if you're speaking to somebody across the table. And again, going back to the earlier point, making sure you connect your responses to the position. So how your technical skill set and experience is relevant to the work of ADB. That will be a key point to be successful in this stage. Finally, last step of the process for you. So panel interview. Panel interview focuses on the candidate fit for ADB. So you're expected to meet with the senior manager, so the head of the department and their delegates, so future supervisor might be included in your panel. Also, there will be HR professional there, as well as another panel member who's likely to be a senior manager in the organization to look at your overall fit to ADB. So know your ADB core competencies that I talked about earlier. For each of the core competencies, make sure to prepare a few examples. So, for example, one of the core competency is to navigate complexity. So you can think of some example that demonstrate that you have this competency to navigate the complexity, right? So you can talk about the matrix organization that you have worked for. You can also talk about a project. Maybe you have to work in ambiguous situation and really figure out the process as you go along. So think of a different example that really showcase that you have those core competencies. Aim for variety. So typically at the panel interviews, you ask maybe 6 to 10 questions. So you don't want to be referencing only one project. So make sure you prepare when you're preparing a different example, so you can highlight projects that are different in scope. Maybe it's national level or maybe it's sub-regional level. You can talk about different stakeholders you worked, internal and external, that can show diversity. Some of you may be working on maybe longer term project, and in the past 3 years, you've been only working on one project. That's okay. You can talk about different stages of the project, right? Ideation, design. Maybe you can talk about analysis and monitoring of the project. So really make sure you have a variety to highlight. Another point, I think we are reiterating the points that we made earlier, but you need to make sure that you're not only talking about your results and achievement. So in terms of what you did, action you've taken, the decision you've made, the role you played in each of the example, but also highlight how you did it, right? The core competency of how you're able to achieve those deliverable are critical for us to understand your thought process and how you would go about doing things. So you can highlight your collaboration skills, leadership skills. You can talk about your influencing and, ability to adapt your communication style depending on the audience. So you can talk all about that. So it's making sure you balance both action and results as well as how you did it. Finally, last point I wanted to highlight here. Panel interview is our ADB's opportunity to get to know you better beyond your application. But also this is an opportunity for you to deepening your ADB knowledge as well. You have a great chance to ask tough questions to the senior leaders of our organization. So when you're preparing for the panel interviews, you can think of a few questions you might want to ask to the senior members of the panel. Or you can come up with the questions spontaneously throughout the discussion at the interview. But often I find that it's easier if you have a few questions in back of your mind to pull out as needed. So hopefully that helps you to think about the different stages and learn about the actual selection process itself, so you know what to anticipate and how to prepare. Now I will pass it back to the organizer for the next presentation from one of our incoming YPs this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ms. Helen, for such a comprehensive and insightful presentation. You've given us a clearer picture of the requirements and the competencies expected by ADB, and how candidates can demonstrate their potential even without formal leadership experience. It is indeed a highly competitive process, and your guidance will be very valuable for our participants. Now we will continue with our next speaker. It is my pleasure to invite Ms. Adita Farahia, incoming young professional at the ADB, to share her personal experience and tips from her own journey. Ms. Adita brings her strong expertise in renewable energy through her work at Marine Clean Energy, a government agency in California. She holds an MBA from the University of California, Los Angeles, and is also an LPDP alumna. Her career journey spans consulting roles at KPMG and Bain & Company in Indonesia, before pursuing her passion for sustainability in US. She will share with us useful tips on interview preparations and strategies for answering questions and communication ethics in the ADB. Ms. Adita, good evening. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Marian, for the introduction. Hi, everyone. Although I was already introduced at the beginning, but let me just introduce myself. My name is Adita. I graduated from UCLA with an MBA degree with certificate in sustainability back in June 2024. I'm also an LPDP alumni. This past year, I work in marine clean energy in San Francisco Bay Area, which is government clean energy agency where I gained some experience in renewable energy in the US. Also, thanks to LPDP because I was able to continue my work in the US and get this experience. I think without this experience, I wouldn't get into the ADB YPP program. So I'm an incoming 2025 YPP at ADB on the emerging areas team in the energy sector for my first rotation in the YPP program. So I'm not part of the program just yet. I'm joining ADB next Thursday. So I'll be leaving the US on Sunday, actually. So I'm excited for that. It's an immense honor to be invited by the Ministry of Finance to speak about my experience today. I think it's a wonderful opportunity to share my experience with all of you, all the Indonesians who are interested in the YPP program at ADB. So I'm hoping that I can provide some valuable guidance for all of you through my personal journey in the presentations over the next 15 minutes or so. Next slide, please. I know that Shiori has introduced some of the selection process, but I'm just gonna go through selection process that I personally experienced last year. I remember applying around this time last year, like September, and I think the deadline was October 7 too. The selection process itself is multi-stage and everything was conducted virtually. It begins with an online application where you submit your resume, an application form that includes like some questions on your personal experience, professional experience. So essentially, you just need to list down all the details from your resume, and you will be given the opportunity to submit your motivation letter as well. And then successful candidates then proceed to an online assessment on the Clevery platform. I got the invite by the fourth week of October, and I got around 10 days to complete it. The online assessment includes psychometric tests that include numerical tests, abstract tests, personality questionnaire, and situational judgment. If I remember it correctly, numerical test was just like some simple word problems, and you were asked to solve the maths. An abstract test was like visual sequences, and you had to guess the last shape or symbols in the last sequence. Personality questionnaire was character and work style assessment. This was the only part of the test that was not timed, while situational judgment was questions related to work scenario decision making. I'm not gonna lie, but I think the abstract test was the hardest part of the task because I remember being very confident in my answers in all parts of the task, but abstract reasoning. So I was really surprised that I made into the next round. Following this, there's an online interview on HireVue, which is a pre-recorded video interview. I guess some of you might be familiar with this if you have had similar experience with other companies. So I got a video interview invite in the second week of January, and I was given about a week to complete it. Then I made it to the final stage. I got an invite in the second week of February and had the interview in the first week of March. However, 2 weeks after I got the invite, I got another email saying that I had to prepare 5 slides for a 10-minute presentation on a specific topic, and I only had 3 days to prepare. So that was shocking, but I was like, okay, I should be able to do it. So the entire session was 45 minutes, but 10 minutes of the interview was to present my ideas on a specific topic. The final stage was a very comprehensive panel interview with the directors across sectors and departments at ADB. I remember there were about 4 directors and a senior HR officer. And a few days after my interview, the HRBP team reached out to me for reference checks, and I got the pre-offer letter by the end of March, and then I got the formal offer by mid-April, if I remember it correctly. I didn't know that I would be joining the energy sector until the pre-offer. So because unlike the rotational programs of other international organizations, that you can specifically choose your desired sector. For ADB, you couldn't choose specific ones, but I remember there was a question like, is there any sector that is closely related to your experience? So luckily, I did get assigned to the energy sector for my first YPP rotation. Next slide, please. I'm not gonna give any tips on the online test since I personally didn't prepare for that, and I also think that there's no preparation needed, and I also didn't find any resources on the internet to prepare for the online test. So I'm just gonna skip and give tips on the video interview. So during the higher view interview, you'll encounter two main types of questions. So the first one is general, and the second one is behavioral questions. I remember there were about 5 to 6 questions. For general questions, just think about questions like, why do you want to join ADB, or why would you like to contribute to like ADB's mission, or what would you like what we why would you be a good fit for the ADYPP, etc. I would recommend that you avoid giving generic answers. Instead, craft a clear personal statement that connects your passion and past experiences directly to the ADB's mission, and also the work of the sectors that you're interested in. So in my case, personally, my interest in ADB sparked when I found out that ADB has energy sector that aligns with my current experience in the US in the clean energy sector. So I thought that would be interesting if I can join the ADB YPP, and I also found out that ADB has a lot of cool projects in energy. So like, why not? I can apply to the YPP program. And I feel like I might be a good fit because I already have this experience, especially particularly in the energy sector in the US, which is very specific. And to be more specific, I'm working in the government sector in the US. So I feel like I can bring something to the table if I join ADB, and that's what I thought at that time. And then for the behavioral questions, the first thing you should do is do your homework on the ADB itself. I highly recommend deeply familiarizing yourself with ADB Strategy 2030. I remember there were some questions around that, so be prepared. And I also recommend that you review your resume and application form. And then you may also need to think of your responses as short, impactful stories that prove you have the skills and the competency that ADB is looking for. One thing that I should note is that unlike pre-recorded video interviews, like higher view interviews for other companies that you might experience before, ADB doesn't allow you to re-record your video, so it's only one take allowed. Next slide, please. If you made it to the final stage, which is the panel interview, this is the stage that you really need to think what's unique about you, what you can bring to the table with your professional and personal experience, and particularly what other candidates may not have. What I did was that I really emphasized on my work experience in the energy sector in California so far, which I thought was unique because I know not many people had such a particular experience in the clean energy / utility sector like me, especially that I work in the government sector in the US. So it made even more specific and closely related to what ADB has been doing with a lot of government agency in Asia and Pacific. So I thought about what if I can implement something that I observe in California to countries in Asia Pacific in a different way, tailored to like the needs of those developing countries in Asia Pacific. I would say that I'm highly influenced by my consulting background in Indonesia a lot. So when I did my presentation, when I made my slides, I use like case study approach. I pick some cases in the US, put them in my slides, and try to make cases in Asia Pacific. I also put some of my observation on the current operations of ADB, what I've been seeing from its publications and whatnot. So yeah, I'm just literally showing that I've researched a lot on the ADB's operations and anything that I can connect with my current experience in the US. This stage is pretty challenging for me because I was only given 10 minutes to present 5 slides, which I initially thought that's not enough because I thought I have a lot of ideas and there's a lot of interesting things that I could suggest to ADB. So I feel like there's the need for me to prepare presenting it before. So I made sure that I put all the essential information there and check if the information was sufficient to deliver the message to the panels. Before the presentation, I also prepared speaker notes and practiced with it to make sure that I will not exceed the time limit they provided. After the presentation, you should expect some follow-up questions on your presentation. I remember one of the questions was like, if you had to choose one country to implement your ideas, where it would be. Also, there's kind of questions around how my ideas would improve ADB's current project so far. So I got questions like whether there are any suggestions I would have for ADBs, particularly in the energy sector, because I chose energy sector for my presentation. On that note, I did some research on the ADB energy sector publication and see if there are any loopholes and see if I can give some feedbacks based on my observation on the best practices that I observed in the US so far. So I tried to think how these cases in the US would help eliminate those loopholes, and so it's kind of a case study approach in my slides. And also the way that I answered to the questions from the panel. Similar to my previous slide on the video interview, you should still expect there would be some behavioral questions in this panel interview, also around ADB Strategy 2030, and also around your past personal and professional experience. So if you had master's and PhD degree, you might need to think about that experience as well. Compared to the online high-view interview that is much shorter, this is the time that you would be given more time to show who you really are, what you've done in the past, and what you've learned from those experiences. I try to remember all the stories I've had, not only from my recent work experience in the US, but also every single work that I've done in Indonesia, both when I was at KPMG and when I was interning at Bain in the summer in 2023. I'm not going to tell what the questions were, but there was a question that actually triggered me to tell the panel about why I decided to pursue my MBA, why I went to UCLA for my MBA, why I decided to take sustainability certification there, and why I finally decided to pivot to the energy sector and everything behind it. So be prepared if you have made like life decisions in the past regarding your like master's or PhD degree, or if you have tried to pivot to another industry in the past and there's a story behind it. So I think you should be prepared to tell the story to the panel. Also, if you're having PhD or a master's degree, or if you're doing that right now, I would suggest that you have some reflections on it and think about what you've experienced, what you've learned from your education, and how it has shaped you. Because I think there will be some questions that like lead you to like tell that story. So I think it's very important to like have some reflections on that too. I think, for example, if you're joining a student club in the organization in your campus on like specific topics related to the position that you wanted at ADB, or if you're ever leading projects or anything on campus, I think you should be prepared to tell that story. Also, I personally feel that reflecting on the essays that I submitted when I applied to business schools and also when I applied LPDP really helped me to reflect on what my dreams were, what I wanted to pursue, what I wanted to contribute to Indonesia and the entire region like Asia Pacific. I think it really helped me to guide me and navigate me through the process and how I should craft my answers when doing the interviews. So I feel it's really helpful and I would suggest that you also do that because I feel like those essays are what guide us to like our future and what we're be working in the future. And then in terms of answering questions, I strongly recommend using the STAR method. That stands for situation, task, action, and result. You start by describing the situation and then explain your task or objective, detail the specific actions you took, and conclude with the tangible results of your efforts. This is a powerful framework that I've been using for a lot of my interviews, not just for ADB, but for the other companies that I have interviewed before. And I would say that it's very effective and it would guide you to have structured, detailed, and results-oriented answers. I think that's all that I have today. I hope my presentation in the last 15 minutes or so was helpful, and good luck to everyone who's interested in applying to YPP ADB. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Miss Adita. It is truly interesting to hear how you tailor your personal background to align with ADB's needs and values, and especially how your unique experience in sustainability has shaped your journey with the Young Professional Program in ADB. So we will now open the floor for a question and answer discussion with our speakers, Miss Shiori Helen and Miss Adita Farahia. But first, I would like to give opportunity to the participant who raised their hands to deliver their question directly to our speakers. If any, you could raise your hand right now. And after that, we will also take 2 questions from the chat box to be answered by the speakers. Okay, here we can see Mr. Adrianus Habib Furkoni has raised his hand.
Okay, yes. Could you hear me?
Yes, please deliver your questions.
Okay, yeah. I'm Habib from National University of Singapore, currently doing a master degree in economics. Maybe I would like to ask our next YP from Indonesia. Yeah, because you told us about the panel interview. There will be a lot of director. Maybe I'm curious about what is the most challenging question that has been asked for you, and how do you navigate during that specific time?
Thank you, Mr. Habib, for the question. And for the second question, maybe we can hear from Mr. Arya.
Yeah, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Mr.
All right. First of all, thank you so much for taking my question. Like Habib, I'm also from NUS, so it's a bit funny. But anyways, this one is directed to Miss Shiori Helen. So let's say let's say I've had past projects for ADB before in my past work. How would I be able to really highlight that in my CV? And should I add perhaps references as credentials?
Okay, thank you for the question. So maybe now we can hear the answer first from Miss Adita. The question from the first questioners about what is the question that you think the most challenging during the interview in the ADB?
Yeah, thank you, Habib, for the question. I think it's a really good question, and it made me think back to when I had the interview early March. So it's about 6 months ago. I remember one of the questions that I found interesting was, is there any decision that you regret, I think something like that, and like how did you learn from that? I think I'm not sure if the question was exactly like that, but I remember that I told them about my story, why I decided to pursue career. So before pursuing my career right now, I like pursued my MBA degree. And I essentially told them that I was at KPMG. I was a risk consultant back home in Indonesia. I was there for about like little less than 3 years. And then I felt that I've learned enough. And during my time at KPMG, I work with the strategy consulting a lot there. And it sparked my interest in strategy consulting. And I decided to apply to some MBA schools in the US to pivot into strategy consulting initially for short term. And then that led me to having an internship at Bain 2 years ago. But then I also told them a story about how challenging the consulting market in Southeast Asia was that time. And that also triggered me to pursue my long-term goal. So my long-term goal has always been in sustainability. I wrote that in my LPDP essay, my MBA essay. So it's not like surprising pivot actually, but like a lot of decision makings in the past, like when I pursued my MBA, when I interned at Bain and whatnot, really navigate me through like the process, and also why I finally decided to jump into my long-term goal in sustainability rather than later. So I essentially told them like all those decision makings, and that I initially regret that like I didn't pursue like things that I like since the beginning after I graduated from college from my undergrad. But then I was fortunate enough to like learn a lot about like those past experience and how that shaped me to who and where I am today.
We lost your audio.
Yeah, I think you're muted.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay,
Can hear.
thank you, Miss Adita, for the answer. So I think the next question can be answered by Miss Helen. It is in general about how how to present the professional background or maybe education background, also how to make it align with the ADB expectations.
Sure. And maybe before I jump into that question, I wanted to add to what Adita was sharing, because I think it's a really good question, right? So when we ask questions like, what was the decision that you made that you regret and you keep coming back, right? So we're not really looking at your regrets, right? Rather, what you have learned from it, exactly what Adita said, right? So that really tells us your growth potential and how those regrets or the mistake you've made in the past doesn't hold you back, right? You use that as a jumping off point and into something even greater, right? So I think those are the sort of like a thinking when you're participating in a panel interview, to really think about what is the core of this question, right? And don't get stuck on what is my biggest regret, right? But rather really think about, what are the things, learning moment that I had in the past. And that way you can spin that question and really talk about your ability to really grow from your mistakes, right? So I just wanted to add that point because I thought that was a very good question. In terms of the question on somebody sharing that you had an experience working on ADB project and how you can relate that in your application. So just a reminder and make it more general, that ADB experience is not required to apply right? Many of you may be having experience in private sector, like Adita did in consulting firms and so on, right? So it's all about presenting your experience. She talked about her core experience and interest was always being in sustainability. When we look at the bank's portfolio, sustainability, climate adaptation is a core, right? So relating those experience and your interests, your career focus thus far to the work of ADB, that is what makes your motivation letter shine as well as your application. So I would think a little bit more broader about the fit and sort of the areas that you've touched on in the past, or maybe that has been core of your experience, and highlight those to connect with the ADB, rather than thinking about, well, I've done an ADB project, so I must be eligible. Rather, really think about what did you gain from the experience taking a part of the ADB project. So that would be my answer.
Thank you, Ms. Helen. What a comprehensive answer. So before we continue to the next question, I also want to give Pak Said opportunity to answer, maybe to add more from the side of ADB. What is the value that is actually ADB is looking for from the candidates when they answer those questions that being asked during the interview? Pak Said, you're still muted.
I haven't really participated, frankly, in an interview for potential YP candidates, but I can tell you, as a manager in ADB, that when I look at a YP candidate, I would be looking at someone with growth potential, right? So potential to basically be agile, leadership capabilities, to think strategically. So in a way, someone with a growth mentality, that would probably be the key factors. The key factors that a manager would be looking for, because a YP would not have such a, let's say, strong experience and exposure per se by nature, right? So we wouldn't be looking at the person being able to basically lead the technical discussions with the counterparts, whether that's government, whether that's other development partners, or other entities, to deliberate on an issue. But those are, the items that I mentioned earlier would be things that we would be looking at. So I think for the candidates, right, they should, when interviewed, and in the whole process, they should show that those qualities, the ability to be agile, leadership, and potential growth.
Thank you, Pak Said. So basically, from Ms. Adita and also Ms. Helen and Pak Said answers, there are a lot of emphasis in the potential for the YPP candidates. So you don't have to worry if you don't really have a real experience as a leader, because here ADB is looking for your potential to be a leader. And here we have also several questions, mostly is related to the how to create the motivation letter with the best structure for ADB, and how to align the career experience with ADB work values, and also more technical questions about the eligibility of the candidates and what's the age limit and what kind of relevant professional experience that is prioritized by the ADB, and how the eligibility of health, linguistics, and also the academic background, should they be from master degree or PhD in several sectors such as like finance, or maybe specifically only from sustainable finance background. So maybe from the first question related to the essay, I would like to give opportunity for Miss Adita to answer again and to give more clear information about how you build the essay and how to make it more ADB's favorable essay.
I feel like I didn't really tailor my essay just to what ADB needs, but I'm more focusing on what I can bring to ADB. So in general, I know that what I've been doing so far, what I learned from my past experience, whether it's from my MBA and from my work experience. So I just tell the story about like why I decided to pivot to sustainability and clean energy, why I'm doing my career right now, and why I think it would be relevant for ADB. So I didn't really think that it should be like really, like you should be really like try so hard to focus on ADB. Instead, I would suggest that you focus on yourself. If you believe that you can bring something to ADB, then just tell them that you're like a good fit for the position.
Thank you, Miss Adita. Maybe Miss Helen, do you have something to add to this topic?
Sure. I think Adita did a great job responding to that question. It's not really about repeating what you said in your resume, right? Because we already have your resume next to it. So really, it needs to add more value. Why you're here? How has your experience has led you to submit application for this position? So really focusing, as Adita said, about what you can bring to the table. That will be critical. We look through the application side by side, hundreds and thousands of them, right? So it becomes quite clear when it's written by AI, maybe ChatGPT, or it needs to have an authentic voice, which means that it really has to reflect your journey in the past in academia or in your professional experience. So yeah, my word of advice is don't focus on ADB, as Adita said. We already know ADB's mission. I already know that. You don't need to tell me. Yeah, share with us. Why? As Nomura-san said earlier in opening, we want to know your motivation. Truly, that what makes you tick and why you want to contribute to the mission of ADB, not the mission itself.
Okay, Miss Helen, from the technical side, do you think there is an opportunity for someone from other than sustainability background, if they have education background in finance or other than finance, to join this YPP? And what other eligibility for this YPP that maybe we have to really consider about?
Sure. So we don't only hire bankers, right? But we do hire bankers. But as Saeed said earlier, perhaps more of the sector experience, right? Energy, agriculture, different areas that we work in, very diverse. So you have an education background and managed program. Not so much as an experience as a teacher, right? We don't hire teachers, but rather we hire program manager who can be a technical leader to manage education sector development project, right? So that would be the relevant experience based on our operations. And I'm highlighting operations because the YP program, we put the young professional into our operational department. So our sector group, as well as a private sector operation department, markets development, PPP, so private and public partnership, as well as economic research. So you have a PhD or you're pursuing and finishing up your PhD study, and you have all of those experience conducting research and assessment of perhaps at the policy level, then those are the certainly relevant experience to apply for the Young Professional Program beyond finance.
Thank you, Miss Helen. So, before we also conclude these discussions, there are also some questions regarding the career path of the candidates in the YPP ADB. So, some of the question is about what are other departments that is available in ADBs other than budget, people management systems, and
Sorry.
also how is the work situation in ADB, how the YPP candidates will later contribute to the ADB. Are they gonna contribute per projects or per structural positions in the ADBs? Or how is it gonna be managed in ADB's system?
Sure, maybe I can take this one. So in terms of the career path, I think Saeed shared a bit about his journey with YP, but your initial contract is 3 years. Within 3 years, you have 18 months initial assignment into the operational department, as I mentioned, or supporting department, like private sector development and so on. So that would be your initial assignment, 18 months. Then you rotate once, so you have another 18 months assignment. And this could go into a regional department. You could go into another sector group outside of the department, but we really ensure that you're getting different parts of the ADB's operation. So if you started out with energy, then perhaps Adita, you may go into the more another side, maybe urban, if you're interested, or maybe you could go into a climate, right? So there's other departments, and we ensure that you're going outside of the department to really get the exposure. So at the end of your third year, so you're graduating from the program, you have a comprehensive understanding of the ADB's work, but also you're still, you've been with the bank for 3 years, so you can use those knowledge to excel in your absorption. So when you graduate, you go into an assignment as a specialist. And this is sort of the promotion out of that young professional program. And you may be maybe perhaps not at the team lead level, but perhaps you be leading a major part of the project. And we expected these individual to find those position that best matches their career interests, but also there's an aspect of the business needs as well. So if a department is growing and we have a lot of positions, then perhaps the YP will transition into those departments that's growing as well. So many different career paths to take, but again, you are growing, you're gaining your expertise in specific sectors, but that's 18 months and you're transitioning into another role. So you still will be on the learning path, and then to ensure that you're continuing to grow in your role as a specialist, you're paired up with a mentor who is a YP alumni. So somebody who can really understand the challenges rotating different departments, who can help you navigate your career at ADB. You also paired up with another sponsor, so different from mentor, but somebody within the department to help you navigate within the department as you're getting used to the ADB ways in your first year.
Oh, thank you, Miss Helen. Maybe Pak Syed want to add to the answer?
Yes, I think one thing that we can take away from what from what Shiori had said earlier is that ADB would like to see you succeed. Once you join the YP program, would like to see you succeed. So you've got a sponsor, you've got a mentor, right? And then also, other than the mentor assigned by our HR, there's also a network, right, of the YP program that would also meet, that would also meet from time to time, and then we would also share our own experiences, to you. So once you're in it, I think there is enough support system for you to be able to come away successfully, and to graduate as we like to call it. Now, my YP program is slightly different in the sense that there's been some evolution. Obviously, I joined the YP program 23 years ago, but I think the essence is the same. That rotation is a very enriching experience, because it's also a very useful experience, because it gives you an opportunity to see different parts of ADB operate, but also importantly, it allows you to also meet more people, and that also helps in terms of building the network in the organization. Right, ADB is a large organization. I don't have the exact number, but my understanding is around 4,500 or so people now. So it is important to have that network as well, right? And when you graduate the program, let's say within 3 years, having had that exposure to 2 different departments, will really be useful. So I'm not entirely sure whether you are then required to join one of the 2, or you can join another part of another division or another regional department. But whatever it is, this rotation, I think, will be very useful foundation for you when you get into the mainstream ADB staff position. Let me stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Syed. So as we hear from Miss Helen and Pak Syed, there are huge opportunity for any kind of educational background to join the YPP, because there are many sectors in ADB you could contribute to. And even after you join YPP, you can also learn more from different various divisions in the ADB. And Miss Helen, this is I have some quite technical questions in the chat box. Some of the participants would like you to share the number of successful candidate in each stages in the YPP process. So they would like to know whether how many percentage from the beginning when you enter the YPP program until the end, how many candidates will be succeed in the end. Thank you.
Sure. So our selection process is a confidential one, right? So I won't be able to share at each stage how many people gets dropped off, unfortunately. However, what I can share with you, generally speaking, is that many candidates unfortunately get cut off at around online testing, where we're really looking at the foundational skill, as well as a technical screening of the applications. This is where we're looking at that you do have sort of the foundational skill in analytical thinking, problem solving. So therefore, emphasis on that online testing to get to check on your foundation. Then the technical screening, so conducted by your future supervisor and technical specialist, really looking at the quality of your experience. So in the minimum requirement, it says the minimum of 3 years, but successful candidate often come with more than 3 years of experience, and not only just the years of experience, but relevant to the work of ADB. So that may give you a bit of context about sort of the profile that tend to be more successful in the process at those key stages at the online testing as well as the technical screening of the candidates.
Okay, thank you, Miss Helen, for at least give us like a grand picture about how the success percentage of the candidates to apply to YPP. So our time, I think, is almost reached the 9 p.m. So we need to wrap up these discussion sessions. And thank you so much, Miss Helen, Pak Said, and Miss Adita for sharing your experience and your knowledge about ADB YPP. And I think the participants here can still contact you, right, from LinkedIn or maybe email if they have more questions, because there are still a lot of burning questions here, but we cannot deliver all of the questions one by one. Thank you so much, all of the panelists. And now, to close our event, I would like to invite Bapak Dwi Larso, the Director of Scholarship at LPDP, to deliver the closing remarks. For Bapak Dwi, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mbak Merin, and good evening. Pak Said, thank you so much, Pak. I think LPDP should thank you much, Pak, because we started this kind of event, Pak, a couple of years ago, and going on, and now under Ibu Mesita, the Director General from Minister of Finance, will have more and more and intensify the process, Pak, and the effort to this. Thank you, Adita, proud member of LPDP alumni. Yeah, I'm proud of you for sure, because through our recruitment and then your study, you achieve the good position at ADB for sure. More and more like Adita will follow you, not only at ADB, maybe in other international organizations as well. Ms. Shori Helen, thank you so much. I think you are what we call it in Indonesia, orang dalam. Ya. You are from inner circle, inner institution. You give us so many weapons to face the interview and help Indonesian to face the recruitment process. I think Indonesia for sure aim to be a global player for sure, and LPDP as well support Indonesian to do so by allowing them not only for working fully for international organization as well. After graduation, they have up to 2 years at least, can be extended to have internship in any international organization, international company, or even starting a business overseas. So I think this policy, we want to see that Indonesian will be more and more becoming a global player. And by numbers, I think maybe Pak Said understand as well. In the last 3-4 years, Pak Said, LPDP push hard, use all the resources that we have to have more and more the maximum number of Indonesian best talent to be sent to best school in the world. And currently we have about 38,000, Pak Said, ongoing students, and totally we have close to 100,000, Pak Said. There's alumni, ongoing awardees, and 45% of 100,000 best talent of Indonesia actually studied abroad. So about 45,000 actually going abroad, and we need more and more this kind. So I think the effort from 2-3 years ago, we can see that a person like Adita and many others alumni will have more opportunity to be a global player for the betterment of our country and as well the betterment of the world. I should mention as well, LPDP always work hard to select the best talent, best of the best, creme de la creme. I think in this 2025 years, this year, I mean, we attract applicant by the number of 78,000, and we have position only 4,000. So rigorously, we select best of the best out of the best talent that apply for LPDP scholarship. And not only that, LPDP accompany the student along the way during study to improve their communication, soft skill. We have many coaching and mentoring events, as well expand their networks. I think that's if you select LPDP alumni, I think you will not be sorry. I think they are best of the best of our Indonesian talent. So in the future, LPDP will support any event, any effort from Ibu Mesita for sure and other organization to have more and more event like this, and our alumni can take advantage. Not only LPDP alumni, it's open as well for a general public, for Indonesian youngster to see opportunity to improve our country future. I think as a final word, I would say that I wish you all the best. Good luck, and hopefully you'll be successful in your future. Thank you so much. Good night. I stop here. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Pak Dwi, for your remarks and continued support. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our sharing session on strategies for a successful ADB Young Professionals Program application. On behalf of the Ministry of Finance and our partners, I would like to extend my deepest appreciation to all our distinguished speakers, to all participants for joining us tonight. We hope this session has provided you with valuable guidance as you prepare for the ADB YPP application. Thank you once again, and I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Have a wonderful evening.
Hi, I'm Eric, and I'm part of ADB's Young Professional Program. This program is for early-stage career professionals who are 32 years or younger, have at least a bachelor's degree, and bring with them 3 years of work experience. If that sounds like you're already one step closer to joining us.
At ADB, you will be working with a diverse community to shape a better future for Asia and the Pacific. From policy dialogue to field missions, you will see firsthand how our projects transform lives and support inclusive and sustainable growth for our region.
What's unique about this program is that you will rotate across different departments, gain broad experience, and learn directly from the leaders, many of whom were young professionals themselves.
Visit adb.org to learn more about this opportunity.
Recording stopped.